Welcome to True Tears Stories. Please like this video and subscribe to True Tears Stories. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. It wasn't a dramatic confession. No slammed doors or shouted truths. Just the sound of the kettle clicking off and her voice, so calm, it felt rehearsed. "I'm seeing someone else, Ethan." He'd just walked in from the hardware store, hands still smelling faintly of lumber and motor oil. He froze mid-step, the brown paper bag crinkling in his grip. He looked at her, standing by the sink, stirring honey into tea like they were about to discuss weekend plans. "Who?" She didn't blink. "Martin." The name sat heavy in the air, sucking out the breath between them. "Your boss," Ethan said slowly. She nodded. He'd met Martin once. Slick suit, perfect teeth, handshake too strong for a man with desk-soft hands. He was the kind of guy who never said no, just redirected conversations to benefit himself. Even his charm felt like a business decision. Ethan didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just stood there, the bag of screws and replacement light bulbs suddenly absurd in his hands. He set them down on the counter like they were breakable. "How long?" She paused. Not because she didn't know, but because she had to decide how much of the truth to give. "About 3 months," she said. But it didn't start physically until last month. Ethan almost laughed. The qualifiers were worse than the lie itself. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she added. He shook his head once. "You mean you didn't plan it?" She looked away. That night, he slept in the guest room. Not because she asked him to, because staying in their bed felt like lying to his own skin. The sheets still smelled like her perfume. She moved out the following weekend. Said she'd be staying in a condo Martin was renting for work transitions, as if that softened it. Ethan didn't tell anyone, not his brother, not his friends, not even his mother, who called every Thursday evening to ask what he was eating and if he'd finally fixed the fence. He couldn't say it yet. Saying it would make it real, but the town had its own mouth, and soon the whispers came. At the grocery store, the barber shop, even the coffee place where he used to sit with her on Sundays. People stopped asking where she was. They already knew. He became that guy, the husband who got traded in for the boss. It would have been easier if Martin were some handsome stranger, but everyone knew who he was. Wealthy, influential, the kind of man you don't cross if you want to keep your job. One afternoon, Ethan went to pick up a hammer drill from the hardware store and caught the tail end of a conversation between two clerks at the register. "Did you hear Martin Blackwell's getting divorced again?" "Nah, heard he stole someone else's wife this time." A chuckle. "Must be good at onboarding." Ethan left the drill and walked out without saying a word. He wasn't angry. Not in the fireworks and punch the wall kind of way. It was more like erosion. A slow wearing down of identity. The life he built had slipped out from under him in silence. And somehow, he was the one left apologizing without saying a word. But one thing kept gnawing at him. Martin hadn't said a damn thing. Not an apology. Not a message. Not even a coward's excuse. That silence, that smug, well-dressed silence, was the part Ethan couldn't stomach. Until the envelope came. Thick, cream-colored, hand-delivered, no return address. Just 2 words in a thin, confident scrawl. "Let's talk." Ethan stared at the envelope on the kitchen table for a full day before opening it. He didn't know what he expected. A check? An apology typed out by Martin's assistant? some smug legal warning to stop telling his side of the story as if he'd told anyone at all. But it was none of that, just a simple note, written in the same confident script. Ethan, I owe you a conversation. I'd prefer not to go through lawyers. I'm sorry for all of it. If you're willing, let's meet. My office, Friday at noon. Martin, no letterhead, no lawyer's copy, just black ink on thick paper, and a request that managed to sound like both a peace offering and a negotiation tactic. Ethan hated that part of himself that hesitated. He told himself he wouldn't go. He said it to the empty kitchen, to the walls that had once held laughter and now echoed with reminders. But Friday came anyway, and he found himself showered, shaved, wearing the shirt she used to like. Simple, navy blue, and clean lines. Martin's office looked like a movie set, all glass and steel and designer furniture you couldn't sit on without feeling underdressed. The receptionist didn't blink when Ethan gave his name, just pressed a button and nodded toward the elevator. The top floor was silent, too silent, the kind that felt expensive. Martin stood when Ethan walked in. Same perfect posture, same polished smile. But something in his eyes looked different, tighter, uncertain. Ethan, he said, thank you for coming. Ethan didn't respond. He took the seat across from the desk and folded his hands in his lap. Waiting. Martin let out a slow breath. I'm not going to insult you with excuses. Good, Ethan said flatly. I made a mistake, Martin continued. More than one. And I don't just mean with her. You don't have to play humble, Martin. You got what you wanted. Martin paused. I thought I did. That hung in the air like a misfired shot. I wanted control, he said. That's what it always was, even if I told myself it was about love or compatibility or whatever nonsense we say when we're trying to make selfish things sound noble. Ethan didn't flinch. And now? She's not what I thought, Martin said quietly, and I'm not proud of how any of this unfolded. Ethan leaned back. You didn't bring me here for closure. No, Martin admitted. I brought you here because I want to offer you something. Ethan laughed, actually laughed. You're going to offer me money? No, Martin said. I want to offer you this company. Ethan blinked. Excuse me? Martin walked to the window. Behind him, the skyline stretched wide and glittering. He looked smaller somehow, less certain. I built this firm from scratch, he said, but somewhere along the way, I lost track of why. It became about power, acquisitions, vanity. He turned back toward Ethan. You're the opposite of me. Steady, honest. People trust you. You don't cut corners. And you never once tried to climb by stepping on someone else. Ethan couldn't speak. Martin continued. I know you have experience in logistics, infrastructure, even team development. You helped your last company double in size before stepping away to take care of your family. I know all of it. I had someone dig. Of course you did, Ethan muttered. I want out, Martin said simply. I need out. The board knows I'm preparing to step away. I've been grooming someone for months. But I don't want it to be another version of me. Ethan's voice was quiet. So what? This is some penance? Martin met his eyes. Call it whatever you want. A peace offering, an act of guilt, or maybe just the one good decision I have left to make. There was a silence that neither of them rushed to fill. Ethan's heart thudded in his chest. 1,000 images flickered through his mind. Her standing in this very office, probably sipping from that silver-rimmed coffee cup. The whispered betrayal, the looks of pity from people who didn't know half the story, the slow rebuild of his sense of self, piece by reluctant piece. Now this. Why me? He asked, finally. Martin shrugged, a quiet surrender in his eyes. Because you're the one person who deserves to take something from me. Ethan stood slowly, the chair legs scraping against the marble tile. He didn't offer his hand, not yet. Instead, he looked Martin in the eye and said, "I'll think about it." And with that, he left, walking past the receptionist, past the mirrored elevator, past every version of the man he used to be. Ethan didn't sleep that night. The offer rattled around in his mind, bumping into everything he thought he knew about himself. He kept circling the same question. Not if he could do it, but why he would. It would mean working in the shadow of a man who wrecked his life, taking the reins of a company built by someone who'd taken more than just a marriage. And yet, there was a strange satisfaction coiling in his chest, a quiet, stubborn pulse. He sat at the kitchen table until dawn, sipping cold coffee, staring at the ring she'd left behind. She hadn't come back for it. Not after all these months. That alone told him everything. By Monday, Ethan walked back into Martin's office. This time, without hesitation. "I want the contract in writing," he said calmly. Martin nodded, as if he'd been expecting that. "Already drafted. I'll have legal send it over." Ethan gave a single nod. "And one more thing." Martin raised an eyebrow. "I don't want you in the building once the transfer is signed." Martin didn't flinch. "You'll never see me again." They shook hands, and for the first time, Ethan realized Martin's grip was softer than his own. By the end of the month, Ethan was sitting behind a desk with his name on the door. Ethan Myers, managing partner, etched in bronze. The office still smelled like Martin, some ridiculous cologne probably named after a yacht. But Ethan opened the windows, brought in his own coffee machine, let go of half the senior staff Martin had installed like ornaments, promoted the quiet ones, the overlooked, the people who stayed late not to be seen, but because they cared. He didn't announce himself with a company-wide memo or a grand speech. He just showed up early and left late, listened more than he spoke. When the board asked about direction, he spoke of clarity, transparency, building something resilient, not just shiny. There were rumors, of course, whispers about the bizarre circumstances of the handover, about why Martin had vanished, but no one dared ask Ethan directly. They just watched. And then one day, she showed up. It was midweek. The office buzzed with quiet productivity. Ethan was reviewing quarterly projections when his assistant tapped gently at the glass wall. "Someone's here to see you." She says she's your wife. Ex-wife, Ethan thought, but he didn't correct her. She walked in like the walls still bent for her. Beautiful, as always, her blouse too crisp, her jewelry too deliberate. There was a pause, a small flicker of hesitation in her eyes, but she smiled. "I didn't know you were here," she said. "Apparently," Ethan replied without standing. "You don't know much these days." She blinked, as if caught off guard. "I came to see how you were doing." He tilted his head. "No, you came to see what I'd become." She laughed nervously. "Is it wrong to be curious?" "It's just a little late." Her smile faltered. "You look good." "I feel good." She nodded slowly, letting the silence stretch. "This is a beautiful office. Bigger than Martin's used to be." Ethan let that hang. She crossed her arms. He told me he handed it over to someone, but I didn't realize it was you. Neither did I, Ethan said, until he did. Her voice softened. Why did he do that? Ethan paused, then quietly. Because, somewhere deep down, I think he wanted to give something back. It to you, the man he took everything from. She didn't speak. Ethan stood, walked around the desk, but didn't get too close. Was there something else? She glanced down at her hands. I made a mistake. He nodded. We both did. Her voice cracked. I miss you. That old wound tried to stir inside him, but it was faint now, dull, like the ghost of pain long healed. You miss the version of me who needed your approval, he said. That man doesn't live here anymore. She looked like she might cry, but didn't. I'm happy for you, she whispered. Really. He believed her, or at least he didn't need to argue. I hope you find what you're looking for, he said gently. She turned to go, but paused at the door. Do you ever think about us? He gave her a soft, worn smile. I think about who I had to become to survive us. The door clicked shut behind her. Ethan returned to his desk, let the quiet settle again. The company hummed on, and for the first time in his life, Ethan felt the strange warmth of something earned, not given, not begged for, not won through conflict, but reclaimed. And he wasn't done yet. The company didn't need flash. It needed roots, and Ethan knew how to grow those. He started hosting weekly lunches, not in fancy restaurants, but in the break room. Sandwiches, coffee, and a genuine interest in his team. He asked them what wasn't working, what they wished someone at the top would finally listen to. Then he did something radical. He listened, and slowly, the culture changed. One of the janitors stopped him one evening and said, "You're the first one who's ever remembered my name." That meant more to Ethan than any client handshake. But the shift wasn't just within the building. His phone, once filled with missed calls from people who'd forgotten him, now buzzed with cautious texts. Ethan, I saw your name in Forbes. Is it really you? Hey man, heard about the new leadership. Any chance you're hiring? Some came cloaked in flattery. Others pretended the past had never happened. But Ethan remembered. He remembered the birthdays he sat through alone. The looks, the pity disguised as advice, the way they laughed when he left his last job to start something of his own. He didn't reply to most, until one night, at a quiet rooftop gathering to celebrate a successful quarter, a familiar voice caught him by surprise. It was Derek, his former college friend, the same Derek who once told him he wasn't CEO material. Now dressed slightly cheaper, his posture slightly less smug. Ethan, he said, holding a drink that trembled a little. You really did it. Ethan nodded. I did. Derek looked down. I'm between roles. Thought maybe I could swing by and talk, see if there's a space on your team. Ethan studied him. Not with cruelty, just clarity. I've got space for people who build, he said, not for those who watched others break me. Derek blinked. So, no. Ethan gave a kind smile. Not right now. The party buzzed behind him, and Ethan turned back to it. He was learning that power didn't come from revenge. It came from direction, from knowing who you were when no one clapped, from rebuilding a self they tried to laugh out of existence. He didn't need to humiliate them. Life had already shown them the truth. He'd become the man they couldn't even imagine. The rest of the night passed in soft laughter, gentle music, and stories shared under string lights. The kind of night Ethan used to dream about when he was just another ghost in someone else's office. The next morning, he arrived early, as always. On his desk was a card, no signature, just a note. You were never weak, just too patient. I see it now. He didn't recognize the handwriting. Maybe it was her, maybe Martin, maybe someone else who had quietly watched his rise. It didn't matter. He folded the card, tucked it into his desk drawer without a word. No need to display it. No need to cling to old shadows. Outside his window, the city moved fast. But inside this office, built on quiet resolve and slow truth, Ethan had created something they couldn't take back. Himself. Ethan never set out to win. Not like this. He only wanted to be enough. For her, for them, for the world that made loud people seem right and quiet people feel invisible. He thought love would be his measure. Turns out, endurance was. The betrayal had hurt, but it also peeled back every illusion he'd wrapped himself in. He was no longer the man hoping someone would recognize his worth. He had recognized it himself, in silence, in the long mornings before the sun rose. In the evenings, he stayed late, not to prove a point, but to build something real. There were days he still thought of her, of the way her voice tightened when she called him weak, of the guilt he wore like a second skin. But even guilt had its expiration. Now he wore focus, confidence, a little peace. When people passed him in the hallway and smiled, genuine, warm, he smiled back. Not because he needed to be seen anymore, but because he finally saw himself. What they'd taken from him was never really his. But what he had now, that was earned. A good life isn't loud. It doesn't shout, "Look at me." It whispers gently, "You did it." And sometimes that's all the justice you need.